Just close your eyes and relax and hold space in the presence.
Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Dayani Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayani Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari. Namo
Namaste.
Welcome.
Welcome to our weekly online satsang. We call it a satsang because that's a Sanskrit word for a spiritual community. Just simply a gathering of people on the path. Two or more, when they come together and share their light and share their depth with one another and their journeys, that's a satsang. So, the Flowering Heart satsang includes people who join us from all over the world, from other continents and countries, people from various spiritual traditions and teachers, various backgrounds and paths. What we have in common is that we are all on the journey of awakening and the flowering of the heart with divine consciousness and with unconditional love. So, that must be you. Welcome. Glad you're with us tonight. We share throughout the satsangs the Flowering Heart Blessing, which is a transmission of divine awareness, energy, presence, and grace that catalyzes awakening, transformation, and the flowering of the heart in the receiver. The Divine made a very strong point with me and Suzanne when we were introduced to this form of blessing 6.5 years ago, that it comes directly from the Divine Source itself. It does not flow through, it is not mediated by any spiritual organization or teacher or master or avatar or hierarchy of any kind or any religion. It comes directly from the Divine as a gift to whomever the Divine chooses to give it to, which is evidently anyone that asks for it. Because the Divine is really interested in helping humanity to awaken and shift at this time from the global craziness that everyone sees going on around us, which is the fruit of a civilization that has evolved over countless thousands of years, that's rooted in competition, in conflict, and violence, rooted in ego, divisiveness, duality. And that needs to give way as quickly as possible for the sake of humanity and for the earth itself to the beginnings of a new civilization rooted in cooperation and harmony and peace. That happens as people discover inner peace. As people begin to awaken and their hearts begin to flower, they cease being interested in competition, conflict, and violence, and really just want to connect and work together and harmonize with one another, with the earth, with the universe, with the Divine itself. So that's quite a prescription to fill. Humanity's been trying to awaken and transform for also countless thousands of years. Because we've reached this crucial point in our history, the Divine has stepped in, as far as we know, as never before, in sharing, just pouring out grace and turning on the switch of awakening in countless people. There have probably never been so many people, well, there have never been so many people on earth at all, but never have so many of them been in the process of awakening or have become awakened. So that's very exciting, though these are very trying times. The answer is in the awakening of the human heart and the elevation of human consciousness into higher states. As Einstein said, you can't fix a problem in the state in which you created it. So if we're going to fix it, we're going to need to be in a higher state of consciousness that's more rooted in harmony and oneness and connection with the universe and with one another. That's the purpose of the Flowering Heart Blessing, and it works beautifully, and it's flowing out to you right now. There are many other forms of blessing because the Divine is working through any teacher, any group, any individual, wherever people are seeking grace to assist in the process of transformation, the Divine is pouring out grace. So there are many forms of blessing in various spiritual traditions. There's Diksha, there's Shaktipat, there's the Christian blessing of the Holy Spirit, there's Reiki, there's Tibetan Powa, and we could just go on and on. Because all the great mystical traditions have somewhere Sometimes it's hidden, but it's coming into view, I think, in more and more of these traditions today. A direct transmission of divine awakened consciousness, which is pure gift. You can work all of your life to become enlightened, to become God realized, and never attain it, because actually these are things that are unattainable. They are manifestations of grace. Now that grace often happens for people who are consistently working toward that goal, but in the end it isn't our own efforts or the spiritual practices we've done, though they may assist us on the journey. It's a gift of pure grace from the heart of the universe that brings about awakening, God realization, transformation of consciousness. So if you're with us from another teacher, another group that has its own form of blessing or Diksha or whatever your group calls it, that comes from the divine for the purpose of unlocking the awareness of the divine source in the human heart, bringing about awakening and flowering of that heart, please feel free to share your blessing with us. But everyone could, and it would be nice if everyone shared the flowering heart blessing. Because another good thing about this form of blessing, the divine showed us that when you receive it, you are instantly initiated to be able to pass it on and share it with others, either at a distance in prayer or meditation, or in person with informed consent, lightly laying your hands on the receiver's head, just inviting the divine to pour the flowering heart blessing through you, and that's it. The divine does all the rest. The more we try to guide it, direct it, visualize it, pray it, it just gets in the way, because we're really not doing anything except serving as a vessel, an instrument of grace in the transmission of the flowering heart blessing. It's the divine doing it all, which keeps ego out of it and all efforts to control in any way. So please share this blessing far and wide. If you don't have a blessing group in your community, start one. We've got a wonderful introductory film, 36 minutes long, on our website. You can find links for it all over at floweringheart.org. And you can just push the button on a laptop, and it does all of the introduction for you, and then you can begin to share the blessing with one another, and you have an instant meditation blessing group. I think that's a good idea. The divine might be speaking to someone to do that. If it is, please listen. Anyway, during these gatherings, before I forget, we love it if you're here, if you'd give us a like or a love. So at the end, we can see the list of the names of people that dropped in tonight. Or if you watch it in the days ahead, if you're seeing this a week or a month or a year after it was done, go ahead and give us a like or a heart. That's only on Facebook, I think you can do that. But if you're on Vimeo, there is a way to make a comment or post a like. And I'm sure that's true at LinkedIn and YouTube as well. So let us know you were around and that you were blessed. Okay. Mickey. Well, thank you for your beautiful work. I've been so enjoying your posts recently. Well, I enjoy everything you do, I think, but lately you've been that video of the sunrise and that prayer, that blessing was really made my morning. Thank you so much. Mikael Karlholm is a beautiful being of love who lives in Sweden, and we met in India 15 plus years ago, and it left quite an impression on me. He's a very remarkable person, and so nice to have you drop by. Love you much. And love everybody else too. Glad you're all here. What we do in these satsangs is, after this introduction, we open it to questions and answers about the spiritual journey, about your journey, meditation, any spiritual practices you're doing, what's happening on the path of awakening and transformation for you, something you'd like to have more clarity about, whether it's reincarnation, the afterlife. It could be anything related to the spiritual journey. And even if we don't know the answer, which is possible, what happens is we hold that up to the presence and inspiration pours through and we all receive help. So don't hold back your questions. And we'll give a few minutes to that, and then we'll go into some deeper prayers and blessings for whatever needs you brought with you tonight. And we'll conclude with the open eye light meditation, which sort of describes itself when we get there. So for now, give us some questions. More says, I'm in Vimeo because since a month ago I haven't received notification from Facebook. I prefer Facebook but can't get in. Well, well, if you go to my Facebook page, if you belong to Facebook, you can get in. That's the thing with Facebook, I think, is that you have to have a page or a profile.
She said she has Facebook.
I know. No, she says she hasn't received notifications from Facebook for the last.
She prefers Facebook.
Let me continue. Okay. All you have to do is go to my Facebook page, which is not hard to find, except there are like 8 jillion Michael Milners on the planet. So mine is rev.dr for Dr. Milner. Reverend Dr. Milner is the way you would find the page. Otherwise, you could just enter a search on Michael Milner on Facebook, and I don't know how many dozens of Michael Milners. I think half of them are felons. Don't go to their pages. But Reverend Dr. Michael Milner, you can get in, I think. Okay. Only yours. I do receive others. Okay, well, I'll see what I can do about it, but I don't know why that would be happening. I hope everybody
Should get our emails? Because the link is usually on the email, isn't it? On Mondays?
Yeah, if you get our emails, which are sent out every Monday afternoon, they contain always 2 links. The one to the Facebook page, so you don't need a notification, just click on that link. And it gives the link to Vimeo, which you're using right now. So we know that's working anyway. Okay, well, the spiritual journey is often full of technical issues. I've noticed that in recent years. Since we do live streaming and webcasts all over the world, all kinds of things pop up. No questions, eh? Last week I had to come up with my own. You guys are getting so immersed in the silence of the presence. But let's see here. Okay, that's not the one I'm looking for, but let's try another one. Okay. So this person writes, is it possible to live too freely, with too much trust that all will be fine? Well, this seems better than living entirely in caution, fear without trust. A balance needed, provided one doesn't delve too deeply into the mind in doing so. Is it possible to live too freely? Nope. No, total freedom, total liberation is the way to go. And if you are totally liberated, you definitely will trust that all will be fine, that all is fine and all will be fine, because you see that everything, as imperfect as it seems, is perfect imperfection. The presence is working through all of it, just as it is, and all will be fine. Now, I see what you're asking here. Could I just, live too freely and trust that everything will be fine? But obviously, bad stuff happens in this world sometimes, and to nice people. So shouldn't we have a balance? That's like a balance between the heart and the mind. Mm-hmm. And I think this came up in a question that actually came from you last week, but no. The balance that's achieved is when you are living in the heart from the heart. Then the mind itself is absorbed into the world of the heart, and the heart is able to use the mind. Yes, it is reasonable to pull into the gas station, fill your tank before you run out. If flying free means you're just going to keep driving and not refill your gas tank, there needs to be a balance between just that spontaneous freedom and common sense. But when we're living in the heart, when we're free from the mind, when we're free from the separate self, there is this spontaneous abandon, spontaneous right action, what the Chinese call wu wei, not doing. But not doing isn't inaction. It does not mean not acting. It means that your being, your true self, is spontaneously doing the right thing without reflection, without thought, without the involvement of ego or reflective consciousness.
Which is pure trust and freedom.
Which is pure trust. So can you have too much trust? Oh my God, no. No, that's not possible. But yes, there are those who are not fully in oneness with their higher true self, with the presence, and their form of flying free is often reckless. And so up to the point where the mind is transcended, please use it wisely. This came up in my meditation today, not for the first time, but it's an interesting point, which is before awakening, liberation from the mind. After awakening, the liberation of the mind. Now, we used to say before awakening, be liberated from the mind. After awakening, befriend the mind, transform the mind. But what I'm saying is liberate the mind. It starts with the heart and us being free, but the mind itself is an incredible tool. So is the body. I mean, we realize in awakening that we are not the mind, that we're the witnessing consciousness. We also realize we're not the body, but that doesn't mean we want to dump the body. The body is amazing, and it is the tool that we have to express ourselves physically in this world. What an opportunity. The mind is a great tool too, and I think sometimes in some of the Eastern traditions, the mind is just kind of thrown overboard. There is a point, a place for doing that, definitely, for releasing the body, releasing the mind, and just dissolving in the infinite, unbounded consciousness of the One. So while that is an important step, we don't just turn away from the mind and body and abandon the world. We bring that liberated consciousness into all the layers of our being. That's one of the reasons I like the approach of the flowering heart to conceptualize the inconceivable. We talk about how when we turn within and go deep enough into the center, we discover the divine source at the center of our own being, that it is the center of our own being, that it is our true being, our true self. And once that connection happens, then it begins to flower and radiate out. The light begins to radiate out. It's always been shining out through all the layers of our being, or we wouldn't exist. But it begins to unfold in a transforming, catalytic way. And it illuminates the inner layers, the spiritual layers of our being. It also radiates and transforms the mental layers. That's where all the charges are, and all the wrong thinking, and all the programs, and all the stuff that makes life miserable that we want to be liberated from. Now that we're liberated, the Spirit, the light of the Divine Spirit, begins to dissolve those charges, those programs, that wrong thinking, and it begins to rebuild a new mind, if you will, that is in oneness with the divine presence. It's also, and then further transforms the physical body, has the possibility of amazing transformation. I mean, this has been demonstrated by the Tibetan lamas of the Dzogchen tradition, who cultivate the rainbow body. And in its highest development, their physical bodies don't see physical death. They actually transform into pure rainbow light and just leap up into Bodhi. And that's happened in other traditions as well. The Taoists have a long tradition of that. They call it immortality, which is a relative thing. I mean, because you're already immortal. You are a spirit being that has no beginning and no end. There will be no death for you. That said, there are yogic traditions in India and in Tibet and other places that transform the physical body into pure energy and spirit. And my understanding, my Chinese master, my first master and teacher, a great enlightened Taoist, told me that even with the immortals, that body they create, that form that is not subject to ordinary death, they can only stay in that form for about 1,000 years. I just filed that away. And when I was in India years later with a very great teacher there, and we were talking about the possibility of immortality, he said, I don't know why you'd want to do that, Michael. There's so many other beautiful places in the universe to explore. But even if you did, you could only keep that form for about 1,000 years. I went, ooh. And then it all kind of clicked. And I remembered that in the book of Genesis, in the Bible, where it talks about the ancient patriarchs, the great progenitors of the human race, that they were living around 1,000 years. Some a little less, some a little more. And as the story goes there, the divine one day, after some really bad stuff happened, said, I'm not going to put up with these people forever. I'm going to limit their lifespan to 120 years. Well, that's a pretty healthy lifespan too. And Moses lived 120 years, and there are numerous others who have. But I think the potential is virtually unlimited, because we have stories of Hermes Trismegistus, Thoth. He was an immortal being revered by the Egyptians and the Greeks, and supposedly hailed from Atlantis. But Thoth has been around for like over 26,000 years and has appeared to people physically. I don't know that much about how he does what he does, but I do know that Jesus, the Christ, in the resurrection of his physical body, is physically alive, continues to appear to people physically where he can be touched and touch them, and he's been doing that for at least 2,000 years. So the 1,000-year mark is not a limit, nor is the 120. But the mistake would be is to act like you can fly free when can't fly yet. Like, I can fly, and jumping off the roof. So the second question.
Should we check and see if or is that related?
It's totally related.
Oh, okay.
And I'll just say this about that. Is it okay to fly high, fly free, and live carefree? Isn't it all in God's hands anyhow? And if it's ever not, when living from a higher place as the divine, cannot one simply alter, heal, transform, and mend the situation anyway? Yup.
Except for the thing is it's not us doing it. And so if we think that we're doing it, then that's coming from the mind and the ego. We do need to put in some effort and some intention, but the more that we can surrender to the divine will be done, not my will be done. That's where we're the most effective vehicles of grace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, see, there are some people that are flying free and doing whatever the heck they feel like doing without any restraint or limitation, and they're coming from the wrong place. I mean, you've also asked questions like, as long as I get in my heart and just let the heart fly the machine, well, the human heart needs to grow too. The human heart can be really foolish. There are all kinds of, I mean, come on, you're a human being. I've done foolish things growing up as a child, and sometimes they were things of the heart, like those early romances, you know. And it's so the heart needs to grow in wisdom too. You can't fly too free, but you can fly foolish when you're not really in oneness with the divine. If you're in full oneness with the divine, you're not going to be making wrong choices. Okay, flipping back over to Facebook. Mickey wrote, I have a 14-year-old daughter that is suffering a lot at the moment. Any recommendation how to support her?
Listen, 14's a tough age, especially for girls.
We had a 14-year-old
yes,
daughter.
Yes, we did. We just had to, the biggest realization that I had was that I was so worried because she was suffering so much that I was trying to help control her environment. And that was all coming from fear. I'm sure this isn't the situation at your place, but it might be helpful for somebody else out there, is that when I realized that I've done the best that I could up to this point in her journey, and that I needed to let go and just allow her to be who she needed to become, you know, to be becoming as her own person, then I was able to let go and just trust that she would be fine. And that gave me more words of compassion and wisdom instead of coming from my mind and fear. And when I started to do that, I started to listen to her more. There wasn't as much push-pull. There weren't as many anger outbursts or depression. It's just really rough for young girls to hit. It's rough for anybody to hit puberty, but there's so much going on in the world today, and getting used to the hormone fluctuations and the emotions and the mood swings and all of the changes going on in the body. It's just kind of more like a patience thing, and be supportive and loving and listen as much as you can to what she's saying, because it's just a really rough age. And I find that 13 to 15 are usually the worst of it. And then around 15 or 16, their brains start to shift. They start to get a handle on their bodies, and they just come through it. But it's such a difficult age, and we'll definitely hold you guys in prayer.
I always thought, I mean, I was the only boy in my family, and I wasn't an easy case. But, you know, I had an older sister, but I always thought boys were harder until we had
our daughter.
our teenage daughter. And it was such a challenge. But I think the best thing that we can do in supporting someone in our sphere who's suffering is compassion.
And listen.
And I know you're full of it, Mickey.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that empathy, when it's really from the heart and guided by the presence, doesn't take on too much. We can't, any parent wants to take that suffering on for their child, but we can definitely support them in compassion and in prayer and in holding her in the presence and in holding space for her, you know, which is...
It really is equating to the caterpillar and the butterfly, and puberty is like being in a cocoon. And so we don't want to rip the cocoon open and take the butterfly out. They've got to go through their struggles to get stronger, but we can help and support them by making sure the cocoon is safe.
Right. So we hold space. And that's a protective, safe space when we do that for a loved one. I had one other thing. Where did it go? Oh, well, it's something actually that St. Paul said. And he was talking about the value, one of the values of the suffering that we personally go through. And I'm sure we've all been through our share of suffering. when we pass through that and we come out the other end with faith and love, we can comfort others with the comfort that we receive. We've been there. We've touched into that. That's where empathy comes from. We feel what they're going through, and we've been through something parallel, and we receive comfort from the universe, comfort from the presence, from the divine, and we are able to share that silently, actually, which is what we've been talking about. But we'll definitely be holding your daughter in our intentions and blessings and prayers ongoing, but this evening, a little later on when we do that part. Yeah. Wow, congratulations. You've made it this far as a parent. That's awesome.
Our daughter's almost 21 now, and she just pulled through it amazingly after we got through that rough patch. She graduated early. She's almost done with her degree. She's just, really independent and strong and confident, and but it was rough. It was really rough.
So she's 20 now, and a few years back, when we were still not quite out of the dark, she said, when I reach my 21st birthday, Michael, I will sit down with you and I will tell you everything I have done. Now, when she said it, I thought, that's a great offer. I said, you mean that? And she said, absolutely, I promise. I will pull back the veil and let you know everything I've done growing up.
And I said, I don't want to know. Ignorance is bliss.
So, but as that day approaches, and it'll be coming up May 16th, as that day approaches, I'm looking less and less forward to it. I think by then, I may raise a toast and say, forget it, honey. I don't need to know.
TMI.
So, okay, and Mickey wrote, so beautiful, thank you, thank you. And Julio, hi Julio, wrote, Dear Michael and Suzanne, I have a question for you guys, but first I feel like I should express my deepest gratitude for your commitment in giving service and spiritual support for all those who want. Particularly for these weekly sessions, which I've been attending for over 17 years.
Wow.
Oh, we are getting ancient, aren't we, Julio? Yes. Back then, those were on the phone, remember? Oh, yeah?
Yeah, teleconference.
Anyhow, thank you so much. Lots of love and blessings to you guys. Now the question, can you talk a little bit about our spiritual name in eternity? Sure. Actually, that could be fun. But just for a moment, that 17 years, that comes up every once in a while on Monday nights, because yes, we started out doing these satsangs 17 years ago as teleconferences, and we inherited it from Arthur Collins. I don't know if there's anybody old, I know Mickey knows Arthur, but Arthur Collins was one of the early pioneers from the West in the oneness movement. And I haven't seen him in a long time, but Arthur is a dear friend, and we've had adventures. And he was the first one that actually got permission to be sharing the transmission, which he was sharing at that time was Oneness Diksha, on the phone. And it was a lifeline for a number of us. We would meet every week, and we would do guided meditation together, and Arthur would send blessing. And it was just wonderful. And not too long after that, he said, I've done this long enough, I'm done. And I said, gotcha, pass the baton. And that was 17 years ago. And so we carried it on the phone and then went online eventually. Okay, what about our name in eternity? Well, I can wonder about where you're getting that. There are a couple different angles. Suppose we believe in reincarnation and we've been incarnated several times, if not several hundred or thousand times. Which name is going to be our name in eternity? I think there's a deeper name that is the name of your true being, that embraces all those incarnations, whatever nicknames or surnames or this name or that name you've ever had through all your lifetimes. It says in the book of Revelation that in eternity, every being, every human being that is in the divine family in eternity will be given a special name that only they know. What are they talking about? What is that name? Is that the name in eternity? Well, from a biblical point of view, that would be it. An insight I've gotten over the years is when I have had the good fortune to meet angels. In the Kabbalistic tradition, the Jewish Kabbalah, the names of angels are studied and used in prayer. But in the more in the Christian tradition, for instance, in looking at the Hebrew Bible as well as the Christian scriptures, whenever somebody asks an angel their name, they won't give it. It's like, what's your name? And the angels will say, why do you want to know my name? Worship God, not me. And I thought that was interesting, that sort of backing away, because we know the names of some of the great angels, especially the archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and others, which are messengers, expressions of the divine with a special purpose. Gabriel is the messenger. Raphael is the healer. Rapha means to heal. Michael means who is like God. He's like the captain of the heavenly host and is just really an amazing being. So we know some of their names, but when I've met angels, actually, and it's happened a few times over the years, I've had the audacity actually to say, what's your name? Knowing, that I was probably going to get rebuked or turned down or whatever. And this one angel that was helping me for a number of years when I was going through the dark night of the soul, and he revealed himself to me and showed me how he was helping me. I said, what's your name? And he opened his mouth, and out came something that sounded like an angel's name, but it just kept going, and it kept flowing. And the angel's name turned into this song. It was the soul song of the angel, and he expressed his being in song. And he said, that's my name. And I went, of course that's your name. I mean, no human could repeat it, which is part of the reason, So our very being is an expression of the divine presence itself, and it is a soul song, a song of the divine. The divine sang Julio. And so your true name is that heart song, and in eternity, that will become obvious. Not only will your soul song be emanating and just oozing and radiating from you always, there will probably be a nickname, like Michael, or Mickey, or Suzanne. But that would just be just a little piece of this name that cannot be named, that sort of has no end to it. I don't know if that makes any sense to you at all, but it really does to me. Okay. Jennifer writes, my 16-year-old daughter is all about social media and making friends and talking things out, and deeply connecting. If your 14-year-old is permitted to do any of those things, mine would be thrilled to talk to her and be her friend from overseas.
Beautiful.
Okay. And Mickey responds, thank you for your love. We'll ask Frida. We are living in Sweden. Much love to you and your family.
Takes a village.
That's exactly what I was thinking. The whole world is family. We really are. And as we awaken more and more, it's going to be so much yummier than it are, and it's already really yummy. Okay. And yes, James Burnside, faith over fear. Absolutely. Amen.
Amen.
Well said.
Yeah.
3 words. Okay. So we like to invite you to close your eyes now and just be in your heart space. How do I get there? You're already there. It's the only place you really can be. So just open yourself to the presence at the center of your being and invite that presence of pure, unconditional love to flood your being. Deep at the center of your heart has always been the divine presence. There's never been a time where you have ever been separate from this presence. In the presence you live and move and have your being. It is your true divine self. Some call it God within, some Christ within, some the light within, some Bodhi, in India often the Paramatma. The divine dwells within you, and it is your true self, and it is already fully divine, fully enlightened. No one needs to give it to you. You are what you're looking for. So simply invoke, invite, welcome the presence to flood you, to embrace you, to transform you. This presence loves you unconditionally, exactly as you are. There is no judgment here. There is only love. All of the feelings of distance, of separation, of darkness were constructions of the mind without reality. The divine presence is the most powerful, knowledgeable, wise, and loving being in the universe. And it is drawing you into itself, into complete oneness. There's nothing for you to do but consent and let go. The presence knows exactly what you need and how to give it to you. Just relax, let go, and receive the grace that is flooding you from within and from all around. With your eyes still closed, imagine, visualize us all sitting in a circle together. Lift up your hands with your palms open, facing forward, and invite the presence to pour the flowering heart blessing through you to all the other participants, knowing that as the grace flows through you to all of them, it's flowing through all of them back to you. Whatever problem, whatever weight you're carrying, whatever pain or suffering, yours or for another person you love or care about, put it in the center of the circle right now as we take together a strong intention for that problem to be solved, for that suffering to be dissolved, for that burden to be lifted, for that problem to be released and transformed. Release it to the divine presence. Trust. See it done. And just let the grace flow through you. Relax your hands, and when you're ready, you could open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with me and or Suzanne. Doesn't matter which or who. Just keep looking at least one of our eyes. As the light meditation begins, the divine presence floods our being and flows through every pore. Oceans of love and grace, light, especially through our eyes. The eyes have been called the doorways of the soul. As you just keep looking, that light streams in through your eyes, into your heart, causing the flames of divine love, light, and transformation in you to burn ever brighter. There's nothing for you to do but keep looking and let it happen. grace we've received settles within us. You could keep meditating as long as it feels nice to you. Or you could lie down nearby in Savasana. That's to lie on your back with your eyes closed and your arms loosely at your sides with your palms open, turned upward, and just dissolve with gratitude in the presence. You could just stay there all night that way. We love you very much.
Much love, light, and blessings until we connect again.
Until the next time, the divine in us beholds the divine in you, and